July 1518. The city of Strasbourg was already suffering. Harvests had failed. Food was becoming scarce. Disease and poverty haunted nearly every family. People were frightened. Every day felt like a struggle to survive. Then, one ordinary morning, something happened that no one could explain. A woman named Frau Trophia walked into the street. Without music. Without warning. She began to dance. At first, her neighbors ignored her. Some laughed. Others assumed she was entertaining herself. But hours passed. She never stopped. By sunset, she was still dancing. Her husband tried to pull her away. Neighbors begged her to rest. Nothing worked. The next morning. She was still dancing. Her feet were swollen. Blood stained the ground beneath her. Yet her body continued moving as if controlled by an invisible force. People began gathering around her. Some whispered that she had been cursed. Others believed an evil spirit had possessed her. The local priests prayed for her. Doctors examined her. But no one could explain what they were witnessing. Then, just when everyone thought things couldn't become stranger, others started dancing too. One person. Then 5. Then 20. Within days, the impossible had become a terrifying reality. What had begun with one woman was about to spread across the entire city. At first, the people of Strasbourg believed Frau Trophia's strange behavior was an isolated incident. Surely, they thought, she would collapse, recover, and life would return to normal. But they were wrong. Within a few days, several more people began dancing in the streets. None of them knew each other. They came from different families and different parts of the city. Yet they all showed the same terrifying symptoms. Once they started dancing, they simply couldn't stop. There was no music. No celebration. No festival. Just frightened men and women moving uncontrollably for hours. Soon, the number of dancers grew from a handful to dozens. Crowds gathered every day to watch the horrifying spectacle. Some laughed, believing it was madness. Others stepped back in fear, worried that whatever was happening might spread to them as well. As the days passed, the situation became even more terrifying. The dancers stopped eating properly. They barely slept. Many cried while dancing, begging for help. Some screamed that they wanted to stop, but their bodies refused to obey. Their feet became covered in blisters. Blood stained their clothes. Their muscles cramped with unbearable pain. Still, they kept dancing. One by one, people collapsed from complete exhaustion. Some never stood up again. According to historical accounts, several victims died from heart attacks, strokes, or total physical exhaustion after dancing for days. Panic spread across Strasbourg. Parents locked their children inside their homes. Merchants closed their shops early. Church bells echoed through the city as frightened citizens prayed for mercy. Rumors spread faster than the disease itself. Some claimed the devil had entered the city. Others believed God was punishing the people for their sins. Many whispered that a terrible curse had fallen upon Strasbourg. No one knew who would be next. And the worst part. The number of dancers continued to grow. Instead of disappearing, the strange epidemic became stronger with each passing day. The city council realized they could no longer ignore the crisis. They called together the city's most respected doctors, religious leaders, and officials. Everyone expected them to find a cure. Instead, they made a decision so unbelievable that it would become one of the greatest mistakes in medical history. And that decision would make the dancing plague even more deadly. The city council of Strasbourg was desperate. Every day, more people joined the dance. The streets were filled with exhausted men and women who could no longer control their own bodies. Doctors had never seen anything like it. Medicine in the early 1500s was very different from what we know today. Many physicians believed the human body was controlled by four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. According to their theory, the dancers were suffering from an excess of hot blood. And they reached a shocking conclusion. The dancers should keep dancing until the illness left their bodies. Instead of stopping the dancing, the authorities encouraged it. They ordered large wooden platforms to be built in the city's busiest squares. Professional musicians were hired. Drummers, violinists, and pipers were told to play from morning until night. Even professional dancers were brought in to keep the victims moving. The officials believed this would help cure them. But the exact opposite happened. The music echoed through the streets. More frightened citizens began dancing. Some joined willingly. Others seemed unable to resist. Within days, the number of victims increased dramatically. The city had accidentally turned a medical emergency into a public spectacle. The dancers grew weaker with every passing hour. Their clothes were soaked with sweat. Their feet were torn open. Many fainted from exhaustion, only to wake up and continue dancing again. Witnesses described people crying, praying, and screaming while their bodies kept moving. Families watched helplessly. Parents couldn't save their children. Husbands couldn't stop their wives. Friends could only stand and watch as the people they loved slowly destroyed themselves. The streets of Strasbourg no longer looked like a city. They looked like a nightmare. Finally, the authorities realized they had made a terrible mistake. The music stopped. The stages were dismantled. But by then, the dancing plague had already become one of the strangest disasters in European history. The question now was no longer how to encourage the dancers. It was how to save the survivors before it was too late. By the end of July 1518, fear had completely taken over Strasbourg. The city's experiment had failed. Instead of curing the dancers, it had only made the tragedy worse. The music was silenced. The stages were torn down. But the nightmare continued. With no medical explanation left, many people turned to religion. At the time, a popular belief claimed that the victims had been cursed by Saint Vitus, a Christian saint who, according to local tradition, could punish people with uncontrollable dancing if he became angry. Whether the story was true or not, the frightened citizens believed it. The city officials decided to try something completely different. The dancers were taken out of Strasbourg and transported to a small shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus. There, priests held special religious ceremonies. The victims confessed their sins. Prayers echoed through the chapel day and night. Some dancers were given red shoes marked with the sign of the cross. Holy water was sprinkled over them. The priests begged God to end the suffering. No one knew if it would work. Then, something unexpected happened. Gradually, the number of new dancers began to fall. Day after day, fewer people joined the strange epidemic. Those who survived slowly regained control of their bodies. The endless dancing finally came to an end. But not everyone was lucky. Many victims had already died from exhaustion, dehydration, or heart failure. Families were left grieving. The streets that had once been filled with terrified dancers slowly returned to normal. Yet one question remained. What had actually caused this impossible event? Was it truly a curse from Saint Vitus? Or had fear itself become so powerful that it spread from one person to another? More than 500 years later, historians, doctors, and scientists are still searching for the answer. And the theories they have proposed are just as fascinating as the mystery itself. More than 500 years have passed, but no one knows exactly what caused the dancing plague. Some people believed the dancers had eaten poisoned bread. Others thought an unknown disease had spread through the city. Many believed Saint Vitus had cursed them. But today, most historians believe something very different. In 1518, Strasbourg was already suffering from famine, disease, poverty, and constant fear. People were living under unbelievable stress. According to modern experts, that fear may have become so overwhelming that it affected people's minds and bodies. When the first woman began dancing, others may have unconsciously followed. As more people witnessed the strange event, panic spread across the city. Soon, the impossible became reality. No magic. No monsters. Just hundreds of frightened people trapped in one of history's strangest psychological events. Even today, however, no one can say with complete certainty what really happened. That is why the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The streets of Strasbourg eventually became quiet again. The music stopped. The dancers disappeared. Life slowly returned to normal. But the mystery never did. More than 500 years later, no one can say with complete certainty why hundreds of ordinary people suddenly danced until they collapsed. Was it extreme fear? A psychological phenomenon? A disease that has never been identified? Or was there something about that summer of 1518 that history can never fully explain? One thing is certain. The dancing plague of 1518 was real. It was recorded by witnesses, city officials, and historical documents. And even today, it remains one of the strangest events ever recorded in human history. So, what do you think? Was this simply the power of the human mind, or is there still a missing piece of the story that no one has discovered? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Historical Stories and Myths, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Until next time. Keep questioning history, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.